One of the first steps when changing your hot water heater is to shut it off. And that will allow the temperature to go down as you're working and collecting tools. On the front of your hot water heater, you're going to see a specifications label, and that will tell you what to look for when seeking a replacement. Today, we are replacing a 50-gallon tank with another 50-gallon tank. Do keep in mind, you could certainly up the size, but when looking for a hot water tank, it's important to make sure the height and diameter are as similar as possible to your old one for ease of installation. Don't forget to have a good bit of potable water on hand before beginning this project. Also, an early start is key. One critical step is to ensure that the pressure of your hot water tank is sufficient before installing the new one. Since this is connected to the same system as the rest of the house, by using this water pressure gauge, which just has a common hose bib fitting, we can see the pressure before we begin installation. Just grab a flat blade screwdriver, turn this counterclockwise, and we see the pressure. Your hot water heater will take on the same pressure of your entire house, which should ideally be between 50 and 60 psi and never higher than 80 psi. If it's out of range, be sure to check your pressure reducing valve located on the main water line where it enters the building. Safety is key. Be sure you've got some heat resistant gloves just due to the hot water itself coming out, and you'll definitely want to shut the gas line off by turning this knob perpendicular to the valve. This is a great time to check any potential issues in your expansion tank. Just unscrew the bottom. Get a flathead screwdriver that you used before, and just like something on a bike tire, press it a bit, see if you get air or water. Beautiful sound. Air is a good thing, water is not. If instead water comes out, don't bleed it out. It's time to replace your expansion tank. If you haven't replaced your expansion tank within the past 7 to 10 years, now is a great time to do it. They're only about 30 or 40 bucks and are easy to install. Just cut off the water, drain if you have to, remove the tank, most are a 3/4 inch NPT, spin it off, put thread sealant on, and check pressure as we will demonstrate. Next, we're going to disconnect the screws from the flue pipe. This is a great time to check to be sure it was installed properly to begin with. I don't want to cheap out on this pipe. Don't want to have any carbon monoxide poisoning. Very important that all the male ends are into female ends. So if we come around here, we also see male into female, and that just repeating along that whole flue pipe starting here. As we disassemble the flue pipe, we notice some signs of rust both inside the pipe and on the top of the hot water heater itself. Don't hesitate to replace this if you have any signs of rust, since this is the crucial exit point of toxic carbon monoxide gases and you don't want to leak. If you need to replace your flue type, it's important to understand there are two main types. Type B, as shown on the right, has an outer shell while the pipe in the center of it is surrounded by a jacket of air, and that's so the pipe can pass through flammable materials like 2x4s or 2x6s and not through your roof. Once the pipe is inside the home, it transitions to type A, which is a plain single wall that typically goes directly to the hot water heater. Be sure to meet local code when selecting the type of flue pipe. And remember that having a jacket on the outside of this pipe is always advisable to minimize those carbon monoxide leaks. Also, please consider subscribing to our channel to help inspire new DIY content. Let's get back to it. All right, we have separation here. Just gonna pull it out from that end and then put it on the floor. All right, next we're going to disconnect this top piece. We're going to start the draining process as we disassemble other pieces. We ran a hose line to the outside of the house since we don't have a local drain. Just be sure to watch where you're draining it to. If going outside, you wouldn't want to kill any plants with the hot water coming out. Before we drain the hot water tank, we're going to shut off the main water for the house, as well as ensure Our gas line has been turned off by turning it perpendicular to the valve itself. Also be sure that that cold water valve is in perpendicular position and off. With your screwdriver, just turn this counterclockwise and feel free to really open it up all the way. Next step is to just open both cold and hot valves to all faucets in the house. You can also open up valves on the outside of the house to help expedite the process. So we first opened up all the valves to the third story of the house, and as you can see here on the second story, we've got a slow drip going, and that just eliminates extra water in our workspace downstairs on that first level where we're installing the new hot water heater. So back down in the basement now, we've turned this cold water valve to parallel, opened it up. We did not hear any rushing water coming down, so that means the upper half of the house drained properly. We just found another way to drain some water from the TPV valve since we intend to do some soldering later. So another pro tip, when disassembling the copper lines from the hot water heater, it's nice to have an extra PVC pipe or any other extra leverage you can give your wrench. That will really aid in undoing those connection points. Before beginning installation, it is critical to review the manual for your specific unit. With the help of some heat and some tools, we've managed to remove the gas line from the unit, the temperature pressure relief valve, as well as associated copper plumbing above. One pro tip and something we failed to account for is the new unit has some taller nipples on the top compared to our old unit, so we are going to have to account for that when measuring the copper piping. All right, so we're measuring the length of our copper pipe, and just keep in mind we are going to be taking this piece out during our installation and just have a straight vertical pipe running there. So we've accounted for the extra 1-inch height on the top nipple, dry fitted the copper pipes, and are now just marking it after double checking measurements before cutting. Just deburring the end of the copper pipe. Now cleaning the surface of the copper to get ready to solder. We've moved the hot water heater into position, put on one copper coupling, followed by a copper pipe. Still a little bit of finagling to do just to line it up perfectly. Next step is to apply some flux to the end of the copper pipe and the fittings. The goal of the lead-free solder paste, also known as flux, is to help the solder flow as well as clean. Just a friendly reminder, if you're not using flexible connection accessories and instead you're soldering hard pipes directly to the hot water heater, it is critical to solder all elbows last. Pro tip, never to solder the connector to the pipe while on the unit if your unit has a nipple with this plastic inlet. So quick note on nipples, and no, it's not what you think. If your water heater doesn't come with dielectric nipples or thermal isolation nipples, ensure that you purchase some. This helps to reduce corrosion and extend the life of your water heater considerably. Next, we are going to screw in our hood vent. So we put some thread sealant on here, we've got our pieces soldered together, and now we are just going to dry fit them. So looking back at this project, it would have been a better option to use a flexible pipe instead of copper. That would make servicing this valve in the future much easier since you would no longer have to cut the pipe. Just be sure you check your local code to see what's permitted. All right, so before we used our water pressure gauge to test the pressure in the system, we were at about 44 and we're reading 28 on our expansion tank. Time to add some pressure. Before we begin installation, it's very important that the expansion tank pressure matches that of the water pressure. Here's a look at the final result after soldering. Note that if you haven't soldered before, it's best to practice on another piece of scrap copper first. Although copper pipes are known to last the longest and be less prone to leaks, many homeowners might also choose specialized push-to-connect fittings like SharkBite for faster tool-free installations. T+2 is a thread sealant which should be used on any threaded fittings on your gas and copper pipes. Just don't use on compression fittings. Gotta be careful, do not want to over tighten this. So for gas pipe fittings, it is essential to buy black iron fittings as opposed to galvanized. So we've got thread sealant on the T connector. Now putting some thread sealant on the final adapter. When tightening the fittings, it's very important that you don't put strain on this thermostat here. Next, reassemble the drip leg. It's time to restore water to your home, and having some air on the water lines as you open up faucets is perfectly normal. It's so important you first restore the water supply before turning on the gas, since filling the tank ensures the heating element is completely submerged in water. It's now time to restore gas to your unit and light the pilot. Follow instructions on your specific unit to do this, but note that the gas line will initially be filled with air, so it will take quite a while for the pilot light to come on in some cases. You'll likely need to hit the igniter button continuously to create a spark. Before restoring the gas to the unit, be sure that this thermostat is in the off position, and then a pro tip is you can apply some soapy water to all of these connection points here just to check for any possible gas leaks. No bubbles, no gas leak. After the hot water heater has run for a bit and the flue pipe is hot as gases exit the home, you should check the ventilation of the flue. One way to do this is with a lighter, but always be sure to refer to the manual for the proper testing procedure for your unit. There should be a slight vacuum at the top of the hot water heater, pulling in cool air from the room mixed with the flue gas. In other words, the toxic fumes should not be spilling out. And if they are, it's very possible you had a pre-existing ventilation issue. Also check to be sure you have at least a 1/4 inch of drop for every 1 foot of flue pipe to prevent condensate from building in this pipe. After the hot water heaters come up to temperature, ensure there are no leaks both immediately and a few hours later, including that temperature pressure relief valve, just to make sure there's no dribbling coming out. To check that valve specifically, you will need to go outside of the building or wherever your particular valve empties out to. A few final notes. Don't forget to insulate both cold and hot water pipes. Also, it's helpful to use a digital kitchen thermometer to ensure that hot water is within reach of what you'd like to come out of your faucets. Lastly, write the date of installation with a permanent magic marker, since the date of installation can differ from the hot water heater manufacturing date. If your hot water heater is in a location that's hard to access, be sure to jot down any serial numbers or other identifying information just in case you need to troubleshoot along the way. If our video helped you in any way today, please consider subscribing to the channel for more helpful content to come.